The champagne glass slipped from my hand, shattering against the marble floor of our Chicago penthouse as my sister Emma's words echoed in my mind. "I'm pregnant, Sarah, and it's David's." The Waterford crystal, a wedding gift from David's mother, exploded into 1,000 pieces, just like my life was about to. On what was supposed to be my 30th birthday celebration, surrounded by friends and family in our $3 million Lakeshore Drive apartment, my entire world crumbled in an instant. But what happened next would expose lies so deep, they'd shake our family to its core. My name is Sarah Mitchell, and until that October evening, I thought I had it all. A successful marketing career at Henderson & Associates in downtown Chicago, pulling in 6 figures a year, a stunning 32nd floor apartment with breathtaking views of Lake Michigan, and David, my husband of 3 years who seemed perfect in every way. David Rodriguez was everything I'd dreamed of, a successful commercial real estate broker with Rodriguez and Partners, charming, ambitious, and seemingly devoted to building our future together. We'd been trying to have a baby for over a year, and each negative pregnancy test felt like another crack in my heart, another month of disappointment that David would console me through with gentle words and promises that it would happen when the time was right. Emma, my younger sister by 2 years, had always been the wild one. While I climbed corporate ladders and earned my MBA from Northwestern, she bounced between art projects and relationships, calling herself a free spirit, while our mother worried herself sick. She'd been staying with us for the past 6 months after a bad breakup with some musician named Jake, sleeping in our elegantly furnished guest room with its Italian leather furniture and original artwork while she figured things out. I'd been patient, supportive, the responsible older sister helping family in need. The party had been David's idea. "You only turn 30 once, babe," he'd said 3 weeks earlier, brushing a strand of my auburn hair behind my ear with that gentle touch I'd fallen in love with. "Let's make it unforgettable." The irony of those words would haunt me later. We'd spared no expense. Catered appetizers from Alinea, champagne that cost more than most people's rent, and a guest list that included everyone who mattered in our lives. Our apartment buzzed with laughter and conversation, the October wind howling against our floor-to-ceiling windows, 40 stories above the city, creating a cozy contrast to the warmth inside. I was in the kitchen, arranging the 3-layer chocolate raspberry cake from Molly's Cupcakes, the same bakery where our mother Patricia had worked for 15 years, when Emma approached me. The kitchen was my pride and joy, marble countertops, professional-grade Viking appliances, and a wine fridge that David had insisted we needed for entertaining clients. She looked different that evening. Her usually wild blonde curls were pulled back severely in a tight bun, and her green eyes, so similar to mine, held a strange mixture of guilt and defiance. She was wearing a loose black dress that I now realized was hiding something. "Sarah, we need to talk," she said, her voice barely audible over the party chatter, and Nora Jones playing softly through our Bose sound system. "Can it wait? I want to cut the cake while everyone's still here." I was adjusting the 30 candles, trying to make them perfectly straight, such a meaningless task that would be my last moment of innocence. "No, it can't wait." Emma's hand gripped my wrist, her fingers cold and trembling despite the apartment's warmth. Her nails, usually painted in some bold color, were bitten down to the quick. "I'm pregnant." I turned to face her, a genuine smile breaking across my face despite her serious expression. "Emma, that's wonderful! When did you find out? Who's the father? Is it that guy Jake from your art class? I thought you two were done." The silence stretched between us like a chasm. Through the kitchen doorway, I could see our guests. My college roommate Jessica laughing with her husband near the bookshelf. David's business partner Tom, gesturing animatedly by the windows. My mother showing photos to our elderly neighbor Mrs. Chen. Everyone was living in a world I was about to be ejected from. Emma's eyes filled with tears, but there was something calculated about them, something that made my skin crawl. "It's David's," she whispered, her voice so low I almost didn't hear her over the ambient noise of 30 people celebrating what they thought was a happy occasion. The words hit me like a physical blow. The champagne glass crashed to the floor, sending fragments across the pristine marble. Several guests turned to look. "What did you say?" "I'm sorry, Sarah. I'm so sorry. It just happened. We never meant for it to go this far." The kitchen seemed to spin around me. "How long?" 3 months. Emma's voice cracked. It started right after I moved in. Sarah, I love him, and he loves me too. 3 months. That meant it started in July, right around the time David had become distant, claiming that his biggest client, Meridian Properties, was demanding more hours. The same time he'd started taking mysterious phone calls on the balcony, telling me they were about a potential partnership that could set us up for life. The same time our intimate conversations had dwindled to logistics about groceries and social obligations. I looked through the kitchen doorway into our living room, where David stood near the massive windows overlooking Lake Michigan. At 32, he was still devastatingly handsome. 6 feet tall with dark hair that he kept perfectly styled, wearing the charcoal Tom Ford suit I'd bought him for our anniversary. He was animated in conversation with my father about the Cubs' playoff chances, his perfect white smile flashing as he laughed. He looked so normal, so unchanged, so much like the man I'd married 3 years ago in that beautiful ceremony at the Four Seasons. He caught my eye across the room and winked, raising his crystal tumbler of Macallan 18, his favorite whiskey, in a small toast. The casual intimacy of that gesture, something that had once made me feel cherished and connected, now made bile rise in my throat. "Does he know you're telling me?" Emma nodded. "We decided together. We can't keep living this lie. We want to be together, Sarah, properly, and with the baby coming." I walked to our bedroom and closed the door. David followed, his smile faltering when he saw my expression. "Sarah, everything okay?" Emma told me. David's face went through a series of transformations: surprise, guilt, resignation, and then relief. "Thank God," he breathed. "Sarah, I never wanted it to happen this way. I never wanted to hurt you, but you did want it to happen. I don't know how to explain it. Emma and we just connected in a way that you and I haven't in so long." I stared at this man I'd shared 3 years of marriage with. "The baby we've been trying for. Was any of that real for you?" His silence was answer enough. I returned to the party, moving through the motions like an actress in a play. I cut the cake, thanked people for their gifts, smiled until my face ached. After the last guest left, the 3 of us sat in our living room surrounded by the debris of celebration. "So what now?" I asked. David and Emma exchanged a look that told me they'd already had this conversation multiple times. "We need to figure out the logistics," David said. "The apartment, the divorce, custody arrangements for when the baby comes." I packed a bag and went to my mother's house in Lincoln Park. Patricia O'Connor took one look at my face and pulled me into her arms without asking questions. "He's having an affair," I said into her shoulder. "With Emma. She's pregnant." My mother's body went rigid. "That little—" "Mom, what am I going to do?" We sat in her kitchen drinking tea while I told her everything. "First thing tomorrow, you're calling a lawyer," she said. "And then we're going to figure out exactly what that husband of yours has been hiding." The next morning, I called Michael O'Brien, a divorce attorney my mother recommended. His office felt appropriately serious, all dark wood and legal volumes. "Has he been secretive about money? New accounts? Unusual expenses?" Michael asked. I thought about it. "He did insist on handling all our finances, and he's been traveling more for work lately. I'm going to recommend we hire a private investigator." The private investigator was Janet Chen, a former Chicago police detective. We met at a coffee shop in River North. "I'll need access to any shared accounts, credit card statements, phone records," she said. "And I need to ask, do you want to know everything I find?" "Yes, everything." A week after my birthday, Janet called. "We need to meet. I found some things you need to see." We met at the same coffee shop, but this time Janet had a manila folder. "Your husband has been planning this for longer than 3 months," she said. I found hotel receipts dating back to May, always the same place, the Palmer House. May, 2 months before Emma claimed their affair had started. There's more. David opened a separate savings account 6 months ago. He's been moving money into it gradually. Janet showed me bank statements, hotel receipts, restaurant charges, a paper trail of calculated deception. The most interesting part is that he's been in contact with a realtor about selling your apartment. These emails date back to early September. He'd been planning to sell our home a month before Emma's supposed revelation. He knew she was pregnant before my birthday party, I said, the pieces clicking into place. That evening, I called Emma. We met at Mom's house the next day. "Before we start," I said, "I need you to know that I've hired a private investigator. I know about the hotel receipts from May. I know about the secret bank account. I know about the realtor." Emma's face went white. "Sarah, I can explain. You've been lying to me for months. This wasn't some spontaneous affair. This was planned." My sister's composure cracked. "It wasn't supposed to happen like this. What did David tell you about our marriage?" Emma shifted uncomfortably. "He said you were distant, that you cared more about getting pregnant than about your relationship with him, that you'd been talking about separation." The lies were stunning. I'd never mentioned separation. He showed me texts, messages where you were talking about needing space. Emma pulled out her phone, showing me conversations that made my blood run cold, messages that appeared to be from my number, talking about feeling disconnected from David, wondering if we'd gotten married too young. I'd never sent any of these messages. "Emma, I never wrote these. Look at the number. That's not even my current phone number." The realization hit both of us at the same time. David had been manipulating Emma just as much as he'd been manipulating me. He'd created fake conversations to convince her that I was already planning to leave him. Over the next hour, we pieced together David's elaborate deception. He'd convinced Emma that our marriage was essentially over, showing her forged evidence to support his claims. "But you believed him," I said to Emma. "You wanted to believe him because it made it easier." Emma promised to testify in the divorce proceedings about David's deception. The next morning, I called Michael. "I want to confront David with everything we've found, but I want to do it strategically." I arranged to meet David at Shaw's Crab House on Monday evening. I told him I was ready to discuss divorce terms civilly. I arrived early and chose a table near the center of the restaurant. I'd also invited several key people to be dining nearby: my boss Rebecca, David's business partner Tom, and mutual friends. David arrived looking confident. "You look good, Sarah. I'm glad you're handling this so well." I smiled. "I've had time to think, and you're right. We both deserve to be happy." He visibly relaxed. "I was worried you'd try to make things difficult." "Why would I make things difficult? You've been so honest about everything. I know this is hard, but Emma and I really are meant to be together. Tell me about that connection. When did you first realize you had feelings for her?" He leaned forward enthusiastically. "It was almost immediate, Sarah. From the day she moved in, there was this electricity between us." "And when did you decide to act on those feelings?" "That night in May, when you were working late again. Emma and I were talking, and she was so sympathetic about how lonely I'd been feeling. It must have been difficult, hiding your feelings for so long. It was torture, but we knew we had to be careful, to plan things properly." "So you've been planning this for months?" "Well, not planning exactly, but we knew eventually we'd have to tell you." I pulled out the folder Janet had prepared, spreading hotel receipts and bank statements across the white tablecloth. "I'm giving you a chance to tell the truth for once. You've been planning this since May, David. You manipulated Emma into believing our marriage was over, and you manipulated me." Other diners were starting to notice our conversation. David's business partner had stopped mid-bite. "You forged text messages to convince Emma that I wanted to leave you," I continued, my voice carrying clearly. "You lied to both of us, playing us against each other while you planned your escape route." David stood abruptly. "I'm not going to sit here and listen to this." "Sit down, David, unless you want me to share these bank statements with everyone in your office tomorrow." He sat, his face flushed with anger and embarrassment. "What do you want?" "I want the truth. I want you to admit what you did, here, in front of these people who trusted you." David looked around wildly, seeing his reputation crumbling in real time. "Fine. Yes, I planned it. Yes, I created those messages. But Sarah, our marriage wasn't working, and I felt trapped. So you decided to destroy me anyway, but in a way that made me blame myself and my sister? I thought if you believed the marriage was failing naturally, it would be easier. And the money? The secret accounts? I needed to protect myself financially." The admissions kept coming. By the time he realized the extent of his audience, it was too late. His reputation was in ruins. I stood, leaving the evidence scattered on the table. "The divorce papers will be served tomorrow." The divorce proceedings were swift and decisive. David's public humiliation had already damaged his professional reputation. The judge awarded me the apartment, most of our joint assets, and spousal support. David was also ordered to pay child support for Emma's baby, though she ultimately decided to move to Seattle to start fresh. My relationship with Emma remained complicated, but we agreed to work on rebuilding trust slowly. The baby, a girl named Grace, was born in April. David signed away his parental rights without a fight. Returning to work had been therapeutic. My boss Rebecca promoted me to senior director, and I threw myself into new campaigns, finding satisfaction in creating something positive from the wreckage. 2 years later, I met James at a coffee shop in Lincoln Park. He was a pediatric nurse at Children's Memorial, volunteering at a charity event I was organizing. He was kind without being naive, strong without being domineering, and most importantly, transparent about his past and feelings. Our relationship developed slowly, built on honest communication. When he proposed 18 months later, it was in the same coffee shop where we'd met. "I know you have reasons to be cautious about marriage," he said, "but I want to spend my life proving that love doesn't have to come with lies." Our wedding was small, held in my mother's garden. Emma served as my maid of honor, our relationship fully healed by then. Grace, now 3, was our flower girl. James and I had been trying to have children for 6 months when I got the positive pregnancy test. Our son Patrick was born on a snowy February morning, healthy and perfect. As I held him for the first time, James beside me with tears streaming down his face, I thought about the journey that had brought us to this moment. Looking back now, 5 years after that terrible birthday party, I can honestly say I'm grateful for what happened. Not grateful for the pain, but grateful for the clarity it brought. David's betrayal taught me the difference between settling for what looks good on paper and fighting for what actually nourishes the soul. Emma and I talk regularly now, our relationship stronger for having survived the worst thing that could happen between sisters. Grace calls me Aunt Sarah and has no memory of the chaos that surrounded her birth. David's elaborate deception had ultimately led me to a more authentic happiness than I'd ever experienced with him. If he hadn't betrayed me so spectacularly, I might never have learned to recognize the difference between manipulation and genuine love. Sometimes the worst thing that happens to you becomes the catalyst for the best thing that could happen. David's betrayal had been devastating, but it had also been illuminating. It showed me that I was stronger than I'd ever imagined, that I could survive having my entire world turned upside down and come out better on the other side. If you're watching this, and you're going through your own betrayal, I want you to know that survival is possible. More than possible. Transformation is possible. The person who hurt you may have thought they were writing the end of your story, but they were actually just closing a chapter that needed to end. The truth has a way of surfacing, no matter how elaborate the lies. Justice has a way of prevailing, even when it takes longer than we'd like. And love, real, honest, uncomplicated love, has a way of finding us when we're finally ready to receive it. David thought he was playing chess with people's lives, moving us around like pieces on a board for his own advantage. What he didn't understand was that eventually, people stop being pawns and start making their own moves. When that happens, the game changes completely. If this story resonates with you, if you've been through your own betrayal, please know that you're not alone. The path forward exists, even when you can't see it yet. The strength you need is already inside you, waiting to be discovered. Your capacity to love authentically, even after being hurt, is not a weakness. It's a superpower. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise. If this story moved you, touched your heart, or reminded you of your own strength, please hit that like button and share it with someone who might need to hear it. Your support means everything and helps these stories reach people who need them most. And if you want to hear more stories about resilience, justice, and the triumph of truth over deception, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Because everyone deserves to know they're not alone in their struggles, and everyone deserves to believe in their own capacity for healing and happiness.